Welcome to the Hitchhiker's Guide to Morrowind. Now with this guide I'm going to be showing you how to be a summoner or a conjurer, whatever you want to call it. Personally I prefer to call it a Necromancer. Southern Necromancer for some reason. Now the summoning aspect of this is actually relatively simple, but it uses a lot of magicka, so this guide is going to be centred mainly around the idea of magicka restoration and conservation. So for that reason you could actually apply this guide to pretty much any magic character that's going to be heavy on magicka. Now I actually played through as a Necromancer recently. Now I went for the Breton for a race. You see we've got 10 points in conjuration, bit of alchemy, alteration, illusion, mysticism and restoration. Very nice little setup. Mainly, and I'll come back to these later as to why, but you've got these two bonuses here. Magicka bonus 0.5 times your intelligence and resist magicka 50%. I'll come back to these with the Birthsigns. Now, as for classes, you may want to go for a battle mage. This is quite a nice setup. You've got conjuration in your major skills and weapon types as well, so this is a little bit of both. The mage is the utter magic class, basically. I think it uses 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, it uses every single school of magic plus short blade. However, I always preferred the sorcerer, which unfortunately has enchanting major skills, which I was never too fond of, but conjuration's there. You've also got marksman in your minor skills and destruction in your major. Again, I'll come back to these two later. Birthsigns. Now your safest bet is the mage. Fortify maximum magicka, 0.5 times your intelligence. The apprentice. 1.5 times your intelligence. However, you got weakness to magicka 50%, but if you remember with the Breton race, you get resistance to magicka 50%, which means this is just non-existent, this is immediately nullified. And you've got the 0.5 times your intelligence bonus, so you've actually got 2 times your intelligence with no weakness to magicka, so that's nice. The Atronach is the most you can get, okay? You've got Fortify maximum magicka, 2 times your intelligence. Plus, again, if you go for the Breton, that's 2.5. However, you've got stunted magicka. This is wound burn, I think it's called. Your magicka will not regenerate naturally. Like your health regenerates when you rest, that doesn't happen with your magicka. You're going to have to rely on either alchemy to create restore magicka potions, or this spell absorption, 50 points. Now, what this does, you have a 50% chance of absorbing incoming spells, and the cost of the spell will be added to your magicka. So that is a means of restoring your magicka. You're always going to find, however, there's places where nobody's casting spells at you, so you're going to run out. So if you're going to opt in for this, beware, you do need a means of restoring it. I'm going to give you some dirty tricks as well later on how to restore your magicka. And also, using this setup, as you can see, we've got ourselves a nice little selection of spells to start off with. Bound Dagger, Detect Creature, Fire Bite, so you've got some nice basic damaging stuff there. Shield, Summon Ancestral Ghost, there you go, you've already got something to summon. And Water Walking. And here's one I created earlier. Right, this guy's in uniform, I'm afraid, so he does look like a tart at the moment. Right, let's have a look at the abilities. This is a class I use using the Breton and the Atronach. Okay, so we've got Fortify maximum magicka 2.5 times total now, so that's quite nice. Resist magicka 50%, that's from the Breton. And here we have Wound Burn. Stunted magicka is what stops your magicka regenerating naturally, and Spell Absorption 50 points. Now this is what I'm going to talk about this one for a bit, because this can be really handy with the Atronach. Now you can get a lot of items and amulets with Spell Absorption already on it. I think you can get a Shock Eater robe, you can buy that dirt cheap, and that's got like 30 points on it or something like that. You could also always go for constant effects, however in the case of Spell Absorption it's really expensive. I think you only get like 4 points out of it or something like that. Yeah, 1 to 3 points. I guess if you set up a full kit like that you could get some sneaky points, but it's a bit expensive. However, if you go and cast when used, I'm going to do this again. Alright, on self, 8 seconds? Yeah, that should be enough. We've got 50 points already. We've got 80 points there. Yeah, this should be good. I'm going to make this. You could also create a spell absorption spell, but as you can see they cost a fortune, which kind of defeats the purpose. Now another spell you're going to find really handy as a summoner, and I'll explain why after, is a single point damage spell. I like to use a fire damage. I can get it nice and cheap, so it's only costing 1 point to cast and it just does 1 damage. I like to think of this spell as point and click. Kill that guy. Now this is how all the spell absorption fits together, okay? So we're going to use our Summon Ancestral Ghost spell. This is the one we got right at the start. Okay, we're going to use our 1 point fire damage spell and our enchantment with spell absorption. Now what you want to do is summon your Ancestral Ghost, okay, and use your 1 point damage spell and hit it 3 times. Okay, you don't want to kill it, you just want it to attack you. Now get your amulet ready and cast that. And then that's going to give us 80 points spell absorption total. Now hit it again and let it attack you. There you go, that little white poof there means you're absorbing the spell, and if you look at the blue mana bar bottom left, there we go, we're full now. Cheers mate. It's also possible to cheat and use a Drain Magicka spell on yourself to restore it, but they fix that with the code patch. Now if you want to recover your Magicka legitimately, you're going to have to rely on alchemy. Now those potions you get from the vendors, they're rubbish. Don't bother with them. Trust me, it will be worth your while to make your own. Right, very quick rundown, I have other guides on this. But what you're going to need is Ash Yam and Bloat. With these 2 ingredients you're going to make a Fortify Intelligence potion. You then take it and you create another one, and you take that and you create another one. You only need a few pots to massively increase your alchemy. Once you've done that, you then want to take your Frost Salts or your Void Salts, which can both be purchased from the alchemist in Balmora. In fact, most of these ingredients can be purchased in bulk, and you also want Comberries, and these will create your Restore Magicka potions. Sometimes it's best to save Magicka rather than just waste it, and a good way to do this is to adjust your spells. Let's say here I have a Summon Frost Atronach 60 seconds on self, and this cost 81 to cast. Now I made a smaller spell of this for 30 seconds on self, and that only costs 42. Now realistically, most fights I find are generally over within 15 to 20 seconds, so that's enough. I mean look here, this one costs 66 and I'm summoning 3 things in the same spell, but only for 20 seconds each. Now you can apply the same tactic to bind weapons and armour in the same spell, rather cheaply, again as combat only equipment. And the great thing about these spells is they cost bugger all to begin with anyway. And finally, since it's all about them summons, I'm going to show you how to control them, because let's face it, they're a little bit thick. No matter how long you stand here, they will not initiate combat with an enemy unless you do or the enemy hits you, which is a little bit poo. However, this is where our Pointy Finger of Death spell comes in, okay? You sit yourself back at a nice safe distance and don't miss like I did, and you're popping off, hit them once with your spell, and go Skeletor, go! Ban it, ban it, ban it. And if you remember right at the start of this video, this guy starts off with a nice little chunk of marksman skills, so you could use a bound longbow to initiate combat that way. The hell?